Okay, my name is Bill Miranda. I grew up in New York City, and when I was old enough, I joined the military. I spent 7 years in the military. I know one of the questions that was asked to the mayor was, can we trust you? Well, I was still a teenager when I was trusted with a multi-million-dollar aircraft. And so if you can trust me with a million-dollar aircraft when I'm 17, 18, 19, I think you can trust me today on the city council. Grew up in New York City, joined the Air Force during the Vietnam War, did not go to Vietnam, fortunately, but lost a lot of friends that did go to Vietnam, and I'll never forget that a lot of my friends and people I went through training with didn't come home. Many of those that did come home, instead of being awarded and rewarded and applauded, were spat at and pushed around and treated like they were pigs. And that's something you never forget. I know we have some veterans here, some veterans who came home from Vietnam, and I always salute those veterans who actually went to Vietnam. I salute all veterans, but those who went to Vietnam are really special. When I got out of the military, I joined the corporate world. I started with IBM at a time when IBM was not hiring very many minorities, including women, and spent 4 years with IBM, almost 5. And then I went to work for Xerox at a time when Xerox started their affirmative action program. Xerox was one of the first companies, major companies in the United States to pursue affirmative action. So at that time, they welcomed more minorities and more women, but it was still rather tokenish than not. So I had to fight those battles to earn positions of management and positions of trust in the corporate world. And when I left Xerox, I had reached a middle management position and was doing quite well. I left Xerox, I went to another computer company called Data General Corporation. And at Data General, I worked my way up to an executive level, and I ended up as a senior member of the executive team of Data General Europe, which was headquartered in Paris, France. So I was headquartered in Paris, France, and I had my family with me. We had an excellent international experience where we saw all the different Western European countries and how they had advanced sociologically, if not economically. We taught them a lot about computers, we taught them a lot about economics. They taught us a lot about sociology and getting along with one another. Those are very small countries compared to the United States. They have to get along. The times that they don't get along, they have world wars. It's crazy. So that was a lesson that was fantastic. When it came time to move back to the United States, I asked some friend of mine who lived in Los Angeles to send me the LA Times real estate section so we could find a home back in Los Angeles. And when I opened the newspaper that he had sent me, we were sitting in Paris, and I opened the big real estate section, and there was this big full-page ad saying, "Come home to Valencia." And I was sold just from that newspaper ad. I couldn't wait to come out here and see it, and see the open space, and see the planned community, and see the future of what America was going to be like. And that was 39 years ago when I first came out here. McBean Boulevard virtually ended at what is Valencia Boulevard, and there was nothing north of there, not really. The Summit was a pristine, wonderful place. I remember my wife told me one time we were on a walk, and she said, "Enjoy it while you can. It's going to change." they're going to build houses over here. And I said, no way, no how, this is too beautiful. Well, we built houses, and lots of houses over there in the summit. The good news is, because the Planning Commission was on its toes, really on its toes, they preserved a wonderful area within the summit that I use to this day, and I've used since it was created. It's just wonderful. A great walk. Walking downhill is always good. Walking uphill, a little harder as you get older. Anyway, I came to the city 39 years ago, as I said, and I've been a community leader in the city since the middle 2000s. I've worked with many nonprofits, and 6 years ago I was...
Do we have a question for Bill?
Yes.
Okay.
Before you ask your question, 6 years ago I was put on, I was appointed to the city council. 4 years ago I was reelected to the council, and now I'm running again.
Thank you.
Okay, well, first of all, I'd like to start off with thanking you for your service and all the veterans that we have. I really do appreciate that. I come from a very patriotic family. I do come from family in the military. It's very important, and I think that's something that, sadly, it seems to be getting lost, and we need to make sure that we continue to keep that back to history, preserving our history. I wanted to ask, which this question actually comes from a comment that Mayor West had made earlier, and I can't ask her, so I'm asking you. It's true that a lot of families and people have been moving here since, I came here because my parents wanted to bring my sister and I to the schools out here. That's a huge part of the reason why families move out here. And my question is, should it become apparent that the school districts are losing money, does it affect the city to the point where then it becomes a city issue and the city can then become involved? And if that's the case, what is that process?
Okay, so the city can advocate. The city is a very strong city. We're a very strong city, and all the council members, each and every one of us, not only the 5 of us on the council today, but the council since its very beginning, since the Buck McKeon days, when he was the first mayor of the city, has always advocated with the schools. But as the mayor said, we can't control anything that happens in the schools. But we can advocate, and we can advocate strongly, and we've done that many times. Right now, as you well know, the issue is with the schools is it's almost two gangs, right? It's the teachers union and some of those people that are wanting to tell parents what their children need to know versus the parents who say, these are my kids. I'll tell you what I want them to learn. It shouldn't be that way. It's always been the parents. For almost since the beginning of time, all our school systems have been run by the parents. It's only lately that the school teachers union, and if you're members of the teachers union, I'm sorry to have to say this, but the teachers union, they're out for themselves. The money that goes to education, a lot of it is wasted on administrative things, on things that are not, as we used to say, as my parents and grandparents used to say, reading, writing, and arithmetic.
Thank you.
That's why we send our kids to school. Sorry.
Good evening, Councilman, and thank you for all your dedication and hard work. I've diligently watched the meetings online, and can only imagine all the sacrifice and time you put into it. That being said, we've had Ellen's had other candidates come in here seeking your positions or seats, and you begin to realize what is this job like. So 6 years ago, when you got on board tell us a little bit about what's it like day one and what's involved in being a city council member. Thank you.
Thank you for your question. It's a very interesting question. My wife asks me that every day. When I joined the council, I joined it because I love the city. I love what the city had become, and I didn't want it to change its direction. There was an opening, and 51 candidates applied for the position. 51 people, just like yourselves, applied for the position. Some were well-known, some were political, some were newbies. There's 51 different people. And they all came in, and they all had to present their resumes, and they all had 3 minutes. We all had 3 minutes to make our case. And some of the candidates were thinly qualified, and some of the candidates were very highly qualified, and the council had to make a decision. They chose me. I was glad to have been chosen, but at the same time, I had a business that I was running. I was a member of many nonprofits. I was on the boards of many nonprofits, and I was wondering, where was I going to find the time? Because originally I thought, this is a couple of hours a week, and I can do that. No, it's not a couple of hours a week. I spend, on good weeks, 20 hours working on the council. On bad weeks, I say bad weeks, on hard weeks, 30 hours. And that's constant. And if I go on vacation, when I come back, it's waiting for me. So there's no real vacation. It's a lot of work. You have to have thick skin to be on it. I love Elaine, but once in a while Elaine jabs me and, she hurts me because she knows I love her. I think she loves me too, but it's hard. It's hard to sit there and take some of the things you have to take. Some of it might be deserved. Frankly, most of it is not deserved. I feel not just for myself, but I feel for the other council members. Last, if I can,
Your question, please.
If I can do this, Al, very quickly, because I think it's so important to answer the question. I sat next to Bob Keller 2 years ago when one of the most celebrated members of our community, one of the most deserving award member of the community, had to sit in his council seat and listen to dozens, not 10, dozens of speakers come up and tell him every bad thing he could possibly be. And he had to sit there and take it. And I sat next to him. So sometimes it's really, really hard. But we're here. We're veterans. We've gone through this. We're thick-skinned.
Okay. Lorene, when she got up, said what she was most proud of as one of her accomplishments of being on the council. What would you say your biggest accomplishment has been to date, and what do you look forward to if you're elected again?
I'll tell you, the first two things that really touched me emotionally, and Doug Fraser, you may remember this, I'm sure you do. When you led the fight coming to council for rent increases that were abusive for the seniors. And we argued and fought, and we helped you, because you were the leader, you were one of the leaders, of course. We helped you get more reasonable rent increases. It's when you speak of rent increases, they're never good, but compared to what they could have been, we helped you with that. After that meeting, a dozen seniors came up to the council and thanked all of us, and some of them had tears in their eyes. That's emotional for me. And when something like that happens, I feel like I've done God's work. I really do. All right? The second one was the cube. We were this close to losing the cube. This close. It wasn't the cube, it was the ice station. They were all ready to go bankrupt, ready to shut it down and build something else in that property. Are we okay? Was that the end of that? Was that the end of my time?
Yes.
I thought this was like a Game Boy or something.
May I ask a question? So, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
For your service and your service on the council. I wanted to ask a question, especially fitting for this session, in that we're meeting in the Alan Ferdman Official Moose Lodge Canyon Country Advisory Council, which used to function along with Burmite and some other committees under the wing of the city, under the seal of the city, let's say. Currently, the city only has one committee that functions under the seal of the city council. There used to be a number, but that was sunsetted for some reasons, and they justified it and said, hey, you know what, for costs and such. But then up came, it's currently the Human Relations Roundtable. And so I'd like your input on, from your perspective, the justification of how the city's rationale for maintaining one singular committee when other committees had to sunset by the request of the city, and now have this beautiful room, compliments of the Moose Lodge, but these other committees took on significant costs to function solo. So could you please provide, for me as a citizen and perhaps others, the justification why we have one as opposed to multiple committees, or the justification or the rationale why that might change? Thanks.
I think this has been brought up so many times at council meetings over the last 2 years. The city manager has answered that question a number of times. Evidently, people don't like the answer. So I'm going to suggest you go to the city manager and ask him the question and tell him you don't like the answer. But I haven't had anything to do with the roundtable in well over a year, and so I don't know the answer. Sorry.
Question, Councilman. I believe in the last demographic readings, we're at like an 80,000 population, Hispanic population.
Mm-hmm.
What are we doing right? What are we doing wrong? How do we grow with the Hispanic population here in Santa Clarita?
Okay, so you don't have to do anything, and the city doesn't have to do anything. The Hispanic population is growing at the fastest rate of any population in the country. I made a speech 10 years ago at the College of the Canyons. And I told them why the Hispanic population was growing faster than any other. And it's not immigration, folks. It's babies. It's babies. We're having more babies than everybody else. It's that simple. So you don't have to do anything. Just don't obstruct anything. Okay? Let it go. It's a natural progression. It's happening. Right? There's a Latino on the city council. There's a Latino assistant city manager. There's a Latino police chief. There's an African American fire chief. We're just let it progress. The population is changing. The demographic is changing. I'll give you some numbers if you want from a percentage-wise, and I'm going to use round numbers, so forgive me if I'm off a percentage or two. Round numbers, 35% of our population is Latino. Round numbers, 4.5% of our population is African American. Round numbers, 16% of our population is Asian American. I was with the Muslim community on Saturday, with a small part of the Muslim community on Saturday. There's a growing Muslim population here in Santa Clarita, but it's not just here in Santa Clarita, it's all over California. And so, to answer your question directly, do nothing, just don't obstruct it. It's happening gradually and naturally.
What are you going to do as far as bringing entertainment for adults? This is a very familial community, and I get that. And all there really is to do here is either go to political meetings or school or whatever, but there's nothing really to do for adults or young adults, like clubs or anything like that. Do you see this community adding facilities that would lean more towards the arts or something better? I mean, you had talked about a 5,000 seat arena. Apparently, when they did the Brad Paisley, they had 7,000. So I think we need something either bigger to attract different kinds of entertainment up here, whether it's a stadium or an arena or something. But there just seems to be a lot of people can't hike or don't want to hike. A lot of people don't want, to do some of the things that are here and are more into professional arts and entertainment. How do you see this valley adapting? Because there's nothing to do here, and everything closes by 8 o'clock.
Elaine, you said that at the council meeting, and I almost jumped out of my seat. So you know that I've asked my wife to let me take you out on a date, right? I've already told you that.
She says no.
No, she said yes. So anytime you want to go out with me, we can party hardy. You will know all that is available here in Santa Clarita. Okay? Take them up on it, right? Absolutely. Now my wife wouldn't allow you because, okay, but Elaine, she would, okay? So anytime, all right, we'll go to the canyons in Town Center, all right? We'll go to Reyes Winery on Main. We'll do some rooftop wine tasting. We'll go to McGinn's Pub. You don't have to drink.
You're lucky I don't drink.
You don't have to drink. You're a cheap date. I like that. Okay. But there is so much to do here in Santa Clarita. Look, on my way driving over here, what did I just pass? Hundreds of people over at the farmers market, right here. Okay. Yeah, that's. You know what? You know what? Part of being our age is we gotta savor the moments, okay, and enjoy them, and not ask for someone on the external to jack us up, okay? We got to do ourselves. We got to get that energy for, I'm married 48. Hey, Elaine, I'm married 48 years to the same woman, and I love that woman. Okay, she excites me. That comes from within.
Okay, your next question, please.
I will agree with Elaine, though things do close a little early, but at least Friday, Saturdays. Going to my question, these past few years have been difficult and a learning curve for everybody. I do empathize with everybody who's in a place of office, because I know you've had a lot of angry people that might not understand the process, and we're still learning it. But what I want to know is, so have you learned anything from that? And if you did, what have you learned? What would you do if you were to be reelected? What kinds of things did you learn in these past few years that more people have gotten involved, and how people feel about the tyrannical way of the government? If you have noticed a change or noticed something that maybe you've learned from that you would do differently in this next term, should you be reelected?
Sure. Listen. Listen more. Listen more to more people. Listen across the entire city, not just to the people nearest me, not just to the people that agree with me, but listen to the people that disagree with me. That's a lesson that I've learned. And it's not an easy lesson to learn. There's a movie out called The Social Dilemma. If you haven't seen it, I suggest you do, because it talks about how social media is so geared that when we go on Facebook or we go on Instagram or we go on LinkedIn or any of those, they find people that are just like us, and they hook us up with us. So we end up talking to ourselves. We end up listening to ourselves. And we never reach across and listen to anyone else because we like what we hear. And the more we like what we hear, the more we think that's the fact. And the people who watch Fox think one way, they're one big happy family, and the people that watch CNN think the other way, and they're one big happy family. And we wonder why both sides are so at odds with each other. Because they don't listen to each other, they listen to themselves. And so the lesson that I've learned is to go out and listen to people, even the people I disagree with. They have a point, okay? And so we're now going to districts, and maybe I'm opening another can of worms, but we're going to districts. And one of the problems the city's going to have going to districts is that each council member in each district is going to serve their district first. That's the only way they'll get elected, okay? And so because of that, you may have, I'm not saying you will have, but you may have situations where because of favoring a district, the better good of the city doesn't get done.
I have 5 minutes to sum it up, sir.
I'm sorry?
5 minutes to sum it up.
Oh, okay. And I won't use 5 minutes. I will just say that anyone who wants to know about me, you can go to votebillmiranda.com. You could Google me. There's enough stuff out there that's been put out there over the last 20 years that some of those pictures, I don't even know that they're me anymore, but I guess they are. This is a special place. Santa Clarita is a special place. You talked about population and what are we going to do to keep it from growing. We're not. You know why? Because it's a special place. People are waiting in line to get in. And think about this. I came here in 1983, January of 1983. And when I came here, there were people that were saying, oh man, Valencia, they're going to build all these houses. Oh, no. And then all of a sudden, we started building the summit and started working toward North Valencia and all those places. What if we had shut down the city then? How many of us would be here? Now, most of us here would be here because looks like most of us are long-timers. But how many other people would be here? What if we closed it in 94 after the earthquake? What if we closed it in 2001 and 2 after the recession, that severe recession that took place? What if we closed it in 2008 when the stock market crashed? Do you see what I'm saying? It's a desirable place. It's a special place. It's one of the most awarded cities in the country. It's the 3rd largest city in the county. It's the 17th largest city in the state. It's the 97th largest city in the entire country. And here's what we don't have. We don't have the infrastructure of a city our size. We have one hospital. You're here in Canyon Country. Your job, Alan, is to take care of Canyon Country, is to advise us and everybody in the city that Canyon Country exists and that Canyon Country needs to be heard. That's part of your job. It's in your bylaws. I read them, bylaws or whatever you call them. Okay? So your job is to advocate for Canyon Country. You shake your head. Is that not your job, to advocate for Canyon Country? Okay, so in advocating for Canyon Country, what we've done over the last 6 years is we built the Canyon Country Community Center, we put the sheriff's station closer to you, we built a special needs park at Canyon Country Park, we built a park at Vista, at Vista Canyon. Vista Canyon. And I held myself because I live near Vista. At Vista Canyon, And we're going to build a park at Via Princesa. We're going to build a Metrolink station. We're doing all these things in and around Canyon Country. Right. You should love us. You should absolutely love us. Because before that, Canyon Country didn't get a lot of attention. Over the last 6 years, Canyon Country has been the focal point of our attention. We've spent more money, more resources here in Canyon Country than anywhere else. And we're proud that we did it. We're happy that we did it. And, you know, I represent the entire city. I live in Valencia. I get it. I don't live in Canyon Country, but that doesn't matter to me. I'll come out to Canyon Country. He's invited me before. I've come here before. I'll come out to Canyon Country. I'll come out anywhere to speak to the citizens of my city. And so if you like the job that we've done, keep us in office. If you don't like the job that we've done, vote us out. You're the voters. You're the ones that run us. You are our bosses, as you've told me many times. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Bill.